imagine, just for a moment, that your body is not only flesh and bone, but also a living tree. Your mind is the branches, constantly reaching upward toward the sky, stretching into thoughts, responsibilities, distractions, endless to-do lists. The higher you grow, the more tangled those branches become, until all of your energy is buzzing at the top, restless and scattered. But a tree does not survive by branches alone. What truly gives it strength, what allows it to weather storms, is the unseen network beneath the surface, the roots that sink deep into the soil, anchoring, nourishing, grounding. We, as human beings, often forget our roots. We spend hours sitting in chairs, rushing from one task to another, staring at glowing screens, worrying about what is next. All of our energy floats upward into the head, into the constant chatter of the mind. And, without realizing it, we lose something essential, that primal connection with the earth. The steady presence that tells us, you are safe, you are here, you belong. This is the realm of the root chakra, or Muladhara, the foundation of our energetic system. It is the base of the spine, the energetic doorway that ties us to stability, to survival, to the earth itself. When this root center is weak or neglected, life feels unstable. Anxiety rises. We feel ungrounded, like we are always chasing something just out of reach. But when the root chakra is open and balanced, there is a quiet strength within us. We feel secure, trust in life. We know that no matter what storms may come, we are held by something greater. And how do we awaken this root connection? Not with complicated rituals or lofty philosophies, but with the simplest act of all, touching the ground, breathing with awareness, moving the body in ways that our ancestors always knew. One of the most powerful of these is the deep squat, a movement that is as old as humanity itself. Long before chairs, long before modern life pulled us away from natural posture, the deep squat was how we rested, how we connected, how we rooted ourselves. When you lower into this position, hips open, feet pressed into the floor, spine relaxed but alert, something shifts. You literally redirect your energy downward. The overactive mind begins to quiet, and a current of stability rises from below. You feel heavier, but not in a burdened way. Heavier in the sense of being anchored, grounded. Whole. Grounding is not just a physical practice. It is an energetic remembrance. Each time you squat close to the earth, each time you pause to breathe into the base of your spine, you are reminding your body and spirit of a truth we too often forget. You are supported. The earth is beneath you. Life flows through you. Safety, presence, and vitality are not things you have to chase. They are already here, waiting for you, in the very ground beneath your feet. So, as we begin this journey into grounding and the root chakra, I invite you to let go of the tension in your shoulder, the weight of your thoughts, and allow your awareness to sink lower. Breathe deeply. Feel the pull of gravity as something sacred, something that connects you to the earth. to your body, to the essence of being alive. This is not only about posture or movement. It is about returning home, home to yourself, home to stability, home to the root from which all growth becomes possible. As you continue to explore grounding, it helps to understand that the root chakra is not only about safety, but about embodiment. It is the bridge between energy and matter, spirit and form. You could have the most brilliant ideas, the most vivid visions, yet without the grounding of this base, those visions remain unmanifested, like seeds scattered on concrete. They may carry potential, but they cannot grow. Only when you plant a seed in fertile soil does it awaken into life. And in the same way, only when your energy is rooted in your body and connected to the earth can your higher aspirations truly flourish. Think about how a child learns to walk. Before taking those first steps, they must first crawl, explore the ground, feel stability in their little legs. That primal security is what allows them to rise. In adulthood, we often forget this progression. We want to rise higher, to succeed, to evolve spiritually, without first sinking into the ground that sustains us. But life has its own wisdom. When the foundation is shaky, the tower cannot stand. Grounding is also deeply emotional. Many of the fears we carry, fear of not having enough, fear of not being safe, fear of instability, are stored at the level of the root chakra. They manifest as tension in the hips, tightness in the lower back, stiffness in the legs. When you begin to breathe and move with awareness into this region, these emotions can surface. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, even vulnerable, as if you are touching something ancient within yourself. And in truth, you are. The root chakra carries not only your personal history, but echoes of ancestral memory. It is where survival instincts dwell, where generations of human experience whisper through your very bones. But here lies the opportunity, by grounding, by consciously connecting to this energy center. You are not only stabilizing yourself, you are healing a lineage. You are telling your nervous system, it is safe now. I belong here. With every breath into your root, with every moment your feet touch the floor with awareness, you are rewriting a story of fear into a story of trust. On a practical level, grounding changes how we move through the world. Imagine entering a room not from your head, overthinking, anxious, rushing, but from your roots. Your presence feels different. You stand taller, not because you're trying, but because stability naturally rises through you. Conversations flow more calmly. Decisions are made with clarity, not urgency. You act, but you act from a place of centeredness, not reaction. And grounding doesn't require isolation in nature or complex rituals. It can be woven into daily life, walking barefoot on grass or sand, pausing at your desk to breathe into your belly, taking a moment before a meeting to feel the weight of your body supported by the chair, the floor, the earth itself. Even the simple act of squatting down to pick something up, to rest, to stretch, can become a sacred gesture if done with awareness. When you begin to cultivate this practice, you may notice subtle but powerful shifts. Sleep becomes deeper, anxiety softens, vitality rises. You feel more in your body rather than lost in your head. Over time, grounding reveals itself not as something separate from daily living, but as a constant companion. It is there in each step you take, in each breath you draw, in each choice to pause instead of rush. So the question is not whether you are grounded, for in truth, the earth always holds you. The question is, are you aware of it? Are you willing to trust that support, to let your roots sink deeper so that your spirit can rise taller? When you remember this, life stops feeling like a battle and begins to feel like a dance. Every moment becomes a chance to root, to rise, to live from the deep strength that has always been within you. What if I told you that one of the most transformative powers you can awaken is not action, but inaction? What if true mastery of your reality begins not by raising your voice, but by holding silence with intention? In a world flooded with opinions, demands, and stimuli, ignoring has become a revolutionary act. But not just any kind of ignoring, the kind woven with wisdom. To ignore as the wise do, from awareness, compassion, and clarity. Most people believe power lies in control, in response, in defense. They think their identity is affirmed in every argument won, in every word imposed upon another. But the ancient masters of the East, especially within the Buddhist tradition, taught something very different. They taught that the one who does not react is freer than the one who always responds. The one who chooses not to engage with what does not deserve their energy begins to rule their inner world like a serene emperor. Imagine, for a moment, walking along a mountain path. At every step, someone throws stones, hoping you'll stop, turn, and retaliate. But you continue in silence, steady, and every stone falls without touching you. In the distance, the noise fades. The mountain remains unmoved by the wind. This is the art of ignoring with wisdom. This video is a deep exploration not of the ego that craves to be right, but of the soul that longs for peace. We will speak of the subtle power of non-reaction, of how Buddhism has taught for centuries the path to equanimity, and why refusing to engage is one of the highest forms of energetic protection. You will see why you don't need to respond to everything, how to discern between what deserves your attention and what only seeks to drain it, and how to cultivate an unshakable mind in the midst of chaos. For in times of noise, conscious silence becomes the highest wisdom. Prepare to discover a teaching as ancient as it is powerful, a secret in plain sight, yet understood by few. For ignoring, when it comes from understanding and not from indifference, is a way of loving your peace. And protecting your peace means protecting your soul. When Siddhartha Gautama, the prince who renounced his kingdom, sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he was not seeking the noise of the world, but its silent call. The Buddha, as he came to be called, did not teach his disciples how to respond aggressively, win arguments, or defend a social image. He taught them to see with clarity. When one sees with clarity, one stops clinging to what has no substance. In Buddhist teachings, one of the deepest pillars is detachment. But detachment is not the absence of feeling, is the absence of entanglement. It is observing an emotion, a judgment, or a criticism as one observes a cloud passing across the sky. It is recognized, accepted, and allowed to pass. This is the key to understanding the power of ignoring others from a spiritual perspective. It is not about contempt, but about inner mastery. The word Buddhists use is apika, often translated as equanimity. It is the final jewel of the four sublime abodes, alongside compassion, loving kindness, and empathetic joy. Equanimity is the ability to remain centered, even when the outer world trembles. It is ignoring not from indifference or pride, but from compassion. Compassion that refuses to let your energy spill into things that do not build your path. Take a historical example. When the Buddha was confronted by provocateurs, he did not respond with anger, but with questions. When insulted, he did not return the offense, he smiled. When a man hurled harsh words at him, waiting for a reaction, the Buddha simply said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" And so, the insult returned to the one who gave it, not by violence, but by emptiness. This attitude was revolutionary, even subversive in its time. While leaders and Brahmins argued over hierarchies, the Buddha taught that true freedom arises when we stop depending on the judgment of others to define our identity. In the words of the Dhammapada, as a solid rock is not moved by the wind, so the wise remain unmoved by praise or blame. The Mahayana and Zen schools carried this wisdom even further. In Zen, the master does not answer with long speeches, but with silence, a gesture, or a paradox. They teach that wisdom is not in the answers we give, but in the space we create between stimuli and our reactions. In that interval lies our freedom. To ignore with wisdom, then, is not a technique to gain superiority over others, but a path towards sovereignty of the soul. It unbinds us from the theater of masks where everyone fights to be right, and connects us with a luminous center that observes without judgment, without reaction, without attachment. At the heart of Buddhist teachings lies a profound image. The mind as a serene lake. When the lake is calm, it reflects the moon, the stars, the sky with clarity. But when it is disturbed, when stones are thrown, what you see is distortion. This metaphor reveals an essential principle. When we react, we cease to see clearly. When we observe, we begin to understand. To ignore with wisdom does not mean closing your eyes or running away from life. It is the act of preserving the purity of the inner lake. In a world saturated with stimuli, opinions, and reactive emotions, ignoring is not weakness, it is spiritual resistance. It is not passivity, but a deliberate choice not to feed what does not build. Buddhism teaches that everything we perceive, other people's words, their opinions, their judgments, is impermanent. They are like echoes in an empty cave. The Buddha called this anicca, the impermanence of all phenomena. So, if an insult has no permanence, why would we carry it as a burden for years? Why allow external noise to dictate our internal state? Here enters a crucial principle, the law of cause and effect. In Buddhist thought, everything we experience arises from a cause and generates an effect. If, in the face of criticism, we respond with anger, we are planting new seeds of suffering. But if we observe the emotion arise without acting from it, we break the cycle, we release karma. And that, in itself, is a silent revolution. Zen, the Japanese branch of Buddhism, deepens this teaching with a practice that seems simple. Zazen, seated meditation. It is not about escaping the world, but about watching thoughts like clouds drifting across the sky. One does not cling to the clouds, nor force them to vanish. One simply breathes and observes. Over time, this practice extends into daily life. When someone offends you, you do not react immediately. Breathe, observe, and choose to act from presence, not from impulsivity. A revealing example is the story of the monk who, after receiving a slap, did not respond. His disciple, outraged, asked why he did not defend his dignity. The master replied, "What value is there in defending a self that has no real existence?" In this sentence echoes one of Buddhism's central truths. The ego is an illusion, built from attachment to perceptions. To ignore what feeds that ego is to move closer to true freedom. Of course, this does not mean permitting abuse or violence. Buddhism makes a clear distinction between non-reaction and passivity. To ignore with wisdom includes setting healthy boundaries from compassion, without hatred, without revenge. It is the art of acting without being possessed by emotion. Be off, responding without becoming entangled. The mind trained not to react does not become hardened, becomes lighter, like a lotus flower that, though it grows in the mud, remains untouched. So, when someone tries to harm you, you do not enter their game. When the environment is shaken, you become the still center. This is the practice. This is the power. Mastering this ability does not happen in a day. It requires inner vigilance, humility, and constant practice. Each time you choose silence over automatic reaction or detachment over external validation, you are strengthening a rare and precious quality, mastery over your own energetic field. In the sacred texts of Mahayana Buddhism, it is said that the Bodhisattva, the awakened being who chooses to remain in the world to ease the suffering of others, does not act from noise, but from silence. This silence is not the absence of words, but a presence so whole that no offense can penetrate it. At this point, ignoring becomes as refined a practice as the most delicate spiritual art. It is the invisible sword that cuts the ego and the armor that protects the soul. In a society dominated by the need to respond, by the constant impulse to opinionate, defend, and persuade, the act of ignoring becomes a revolutionary gesture. Yet, it is crucial to make a distinction. Ignoring is not contempt, is discernment. It is not about closing the heart, but about opening it so fully that it is no longer shaken by the small and the trivial. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment to recognition, to identity, to external judgment. When someone ignores you, criticizes you, or betrays you, what truly hurts is not the act itself, but the story you weave around it. I am not enough. I am rejected. I must defend myself. These narratives are the shackles of the ego. The deepest form of ignoring is letting go of those stories, not ignoring the other, but ignoring the interpretation that enslaves you. Many Buddhist masters have pointed out that true spiritual strength is not measured by how many mantras you recite or how much knowledge you accumulate, but by your ability to maintain equanimity when the world collapses around you. This is the practice of Upaka One of the Four Sublime States, translated as It does not mean emotional indifference, but a serenity that does not depend on external fluctuations. The art of ignoring also forces us to face an uncomfortable question. How much energy do you lose reacting to what does not deserve your attention? Every unchanneled emotion, every repetitive thought, every impulsive response is a leak of vital energy. Buddhism teaches that conserving this energy is essential for advancing along the path to enlightenment. Ignoring, then, becomes a way of protecting your inner temple. An old Zen proverb says, "When the wise man points at the moon, the fool looks at the finger." In other words, the more we focus on the superficial criticism, judgment, fleeting opinions, the further we drift from deeper truth. Learning to ignore is learning to see the moon amid the noise of pointing fingers. It is also important to understand that ignoring with awareness is not disconnection, it is alignment. It means acting from the center, not from the periphery. The monk who smiles at provocation does not do so because he feels nothing, but because he has realized that peace does not depend on the environment. By ignoring the attack, he embraces his practice. And this is a form of compassion, not feeding the chain of pain. Often, the wisest thing you can do for yourself and for others is not to respond from the same vibration that attacks you, but to rise above, breathe, and remember that you are not your emotion, nor your passing thoughts, nor the projections of others. Every time you choose not to react, not to engage, not to respond from the ego, you are declaring, "I govern my temple." You are honoring the Buddhist principle that true freedom is born in the space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your deepest power on the spiritual path. Ignoring is not escape, nor is it indifference. It is an advanced form of inner Kara shield, forged in the alchemy of discernment. But how can a soul embodied in daily life apply this wisdom without falling into avoidance or repression? Here, I will reveal 5 essential practices to help you. Cultivate the art of ignoring from elevated awareness without losing connection, without closing yourself off from the world. First, silence as a sacred choice. Before responding, pause. Take a deep breath. Notice the emotion that arises. Silence is not emptiness, is a fertile ground where conscious response is born. By ignoring certain stimuli, hurtful comments, provocations, or external expectations. You are not repressing your voice, you are strengthening your inner throne. Make silence a daily practice. Begin with 5 minutes each day, simply listening to your breath without judgment or effort. That inner space will become your refuge when the world shouts at you. Second, guard your energy. Not everything deserves your attention. Think of your vital energy as sacred currency. Every thought you feed, every emotional reaction is an expense. When you engage in meaningless disputes or in others' dramas, you drain your essence. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? Does it build me or dissolve me? Learning to ignore is not coldness, is self-love in action. Stop being an open field where everything lands. Learn to be the sky, vast, silent, unshaken. Third, the mirror of observation. Each time someone irritates you or projects negativity onto you, practice the mirror. Ask, what part of me is reacting? Am I seeing them or my own unhealed wounds? Ignoring another is not denial, it is recognizing that their judgment only has power if I give it my identity. This practice turns automatic reactions into opportunities for self-knowledge. The true sage ignores because they understand that everything that affects them belongs to them. Fourth, strengthen your spiritual axis. When you are unaligned, any external wind can shake you. But when your axis is centered through meditation, contemplation, prayer, or connection with nature, you become like a mountain in the midst of the storm. Establish a daily routine of connection with the sacred. It does not matter whether you call it God, emptiness, presence, or silence. That intimate relationship with yourself will be the vibrational field that repels all that does not resonate with your higher frequency. Fifth, remember, ignoring is protecting what you are building. Each time you choose not to react, you are saying, my peace is more valuable than your chaos. Ignoring, from the wisdom of Buddhism, is an act of compassion. I will not allow you to contaminate me, and I will not allow the cycle of suffering to continue. Ignoring is to look with love and choose not to participate. When these practices become embodied, ignoring stops being a defense and becomes an art that brings you back to center, dissolves the need for validation, and turns your life into a sanctuary of deep stillness. When we look into the heart of Buddhist teachings and many other esoteric paths of wisdom, we find a hidden jewel carved with the precision of time and the pulse of compassion. Inner freedom is not born from outer control, but from mastery over our responses. And in that serene mastery rises a supreme virtue, the power to ignore what is not essential. Ignoring is not contempt. It is not arrogance. It is a refined form of discernment, a language understood only by those who have stopped fighting with their ego and begun to hear the subtle song of the soul. When you ignore with wisdom, you are not fleeing from the world, you are choosing which worlds you wish to inhabit within yourself. This journey has revealed a profound truth, that ignoring can be more revolutionary than responding, that sometimes silence is sharper than 1,000 words. that letting go of the need for the last word is not weakness, but an act of spiritual power. Because when you stop reacting to external noise, you begin to hear the inner whisper of your true self. Remember this: the great sages, mystics, and enlightened beings were not those who imposed themselves with force, but those who cultivated the art of detachment. Buddha did not ignore the world out of indifference, but because he understood that many voices are nothing more than echoes of unresolved suffering. To ignore does not mean to harden the heart, but to open it only to what uplifts it. In an age of constant stimuli, of opinions everywhere, of judgments falling like acid rain, learning to ignore becomes a practice of mental hygiene, an offering to the soul. When you choose not to get entangled, not to answer empty criticism, not to seek external approval, you are creating space for peace to bloom, for focus to return, for expansion to unfold. And you are not alone on this path. More and more souls are awakening to the truth that not everything deserves a response, that not everything spoken should enter our energetic field, that we can and must choose what we resonate with. This is inner sovereignty. So if this message has touched something within you, if these words have lit a spark of clarity, I invite you to do something simple yet powerful. Subscribe to this channel to continue exploring wisdom that transforms. Give this video a like if you feel its energy has served you, and above all, share it with those who may need this quiet reminder that peace is not shouted, it is cultivated. We will return soon with more teachings that, like this one, do not aim to change the world from the outside, but from within. For the deepest change always begins with the gaze we choose to hold. And sometimes the wisest gaze is the one that lovingly chooses to ignore. Peace. It doesn't require machines, gyms, or exhausting routines. And when practiced consistently, it can be the key to keeping your body young, agile, and strong, even as the years go by. That movement is the deep squat. Today, most people avoid it or consider it dangerous. But the real risk lies in losing the ability to perform it. When the body forgets this primal pattern, that is when true aging begins: stiffness, pain, and dependency. Picture the simplest scene. A child playing, squatting down to pick up a toy, naturally falling into a perfect deep squat. Their back is upright, their feet grounded, their breath flowing. In that innocent gesture lies the original design of the human body. We are all born with this wisdom imprinted in our flesh, but over time, as we stop practicing it, what was once natural becomes difficult, almost impossible. And what happens when we forget this secret? The body begins to compensate. We push ourselves up with our hands. We bend our backs instead of our hips. We take shorter steps. Gradually, we lose agility, independence, and even confidence in our own movement. Aging does not begin with wrinkles, it begins with the loss of this ancestral fluidity. The magic of the deep squat lies in its simplicity. It's in one movement. It activates glutes, quadriceps, hamstrings, core, and spine. It opens hips, knees, and ankles. It stimulates circulation and supports digestion. It is like a silent hymn to vitality, a practice that connects muscles, bones, pen, energy in a dance of rejuvenation. In this video, we will reveal why the deep squat has been called the most powerful anti-aging exercise. We'll explore how this movement activates circuits of strength and longevity unknown to most, the ancestral wisdom behind this primal pattern, and most importantly, how you can integrate it into your daily life to recover not only your mobility but also your vital energy. 99% of people ignore it, but you won't. Because today you will discover that the real secret of anti-aging does not lie in expensive treatments, but in remembering what your body always knew how to do: lower, hold, and rise again. Get ready. What may look like a simple exercise is, in reality, a ritual of physical and spiritual power. To understand why the deep squat can be considered an anti-aging exercise, we must return to the very origins of humanity. Before chairs, couches, and offices, humans lived in constant connection with the ground. They cooked near the fire, gathered fruits, rested under trees, and sat together in circles. And the most common posture for all of this was not what we now call sitting, but the deep squat, feet grounded, hips low, spine upright. In many cultures, this posture symbolized connection to what is essential. Among indigenous peoples of Africa and the Americas, squatting was used to work the land, share stories, or hold collective rituals. It was not seen as exercise, but as a natural part of living. The philosophy behind it was simple. To remain close to the ground was to remain close to Mother Earth, rooted and humble. In Asia, especially in China, India, and Japan, the deep squat was woven into daily life until very recently. Eating, conversing, or resting in this position was normal. Beyond its practicality, its energetic value was also recognized. In yoga traditions, many hip-opening and leg-strengthening poses derive from this primal pattern. It was said that squatting toward the earth balanced the lower chakra, roots of vitality and stability, while keeping the spine upright allowed vital energy, prana or chi, to rise freely upward, even in ancient Western cultures. Squatting carried philosophical meaning. Greek philosophers acknowledged that movement was essential to the health of both body and soul. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, declared that lack of movement destroys the good condition of every human being, while exercise preserves it. Although he did not speak directly about the squat, the principle was there. The ability to lower oneself and rise again was proof of strength, longevity, and vitality. Over time, modern life pulled us away from the ground. Chairs replaced the squat, and with them came stiffness. We lost direct contact with the earth and, along with it, the wisdom of a movement that preserved the youthfulness of our joints. Today, in many industrialized cultures, the elderly can no longer perform a squat. while in rural and traditional communities, this posture remains part of daily life, and people maintain mobility into old age. Philosophically, the deep squat carries a profound lesson. Those who know how to lower and rise preserve the power of life. It is a symbol of humility and resilience, descending in order to rise again. Every time you practice this gesture, you train not only your muscles, but also your spirit in the art of renewal. What 99% of people ignore is not merely a physical exercise, but a cultural and spiritual legacy that reminds us of an uncomfortable truth. We have complicated life to the point of forgetting the essential. And in that forgetting lies one of the roots of premature aging. Most people associate youth with outward appearance, smooth skin, lack of wrinkles, a vibrant face. But the true marker of youth is not in the mirror. It is in the body in motion. The ability to squat and rise with fluidity, to maintain an upright spine and free joints, is the most faithful reflection of inner vitality. Here is where the deep squat becomes the hidden gem of anti-aging. Physiologically, this movement engages almost every system in the body. When performing a deep squat, the legs, glutes, hips, and core are activated. The spine works to stay aligned, the ankles regain mobility, and blood circulation is intensely stimulated. It is like turning on a complete energy circuit that flows through every muscle and joint. No other exercise is as simple yet as integral, but the most important effects happen internally. With each descent, abdominal pressure is regulated, and internal organs receive a natural massage. The intestines are activated, digestion improves, and the diaphragm gains a greater range of expansion. In other words, the body not only strengthens, but also detoxifies. For this reason, in traditional Chinese medicine, similar postures were recommended to promote longevity. The goal was not to sculpt muscles, but to maintain the free and abundant flow of vital qi. From a spiritual perspective, the movement reveals even deeper layers of meaning. The deep squat represents the act of lowering toward the earth to rise anew. It is a physical ritual of humility and renewal. In each descent, you reconnect with your roots, returning to the earth, to the essential, to the origin. In each ascent, you are reborn like, rising from the ashes with greater strength and clarity. Practicing it is, in a way, repeating the eternal cycle of death and rebirth that permeates all existence. What is fascinating is that this gesture also acts on the energetic plane. By opening the hips and ankles, you unlock areas where tension and unresolved emotions often accumulate. Yoga tradition teaches that the hips are repositories of emotional memories. By moving them, opening them, giving them space, those memories begin to release. That is why many people experience relief, sometimes even the urge to cry. In practicing deep squats, the body speaks, and movement becomes a channel for catharsis. We can think of this exercise as a hidden fountain of youth. It is not a potion or a miracle, but a movement pattern that awakens in the body the memory of what it truly means to be alive. When practiced consistently, the body remembers what it once forgot: how to move without pain, how to support itself without fear, how to flow with gravity instead of fighting it. The deep squat also trains something rarely mentioned in the modern fitness world: self-confidence. Those who can lower themselves without fear of falling, who can remain close to the ground and rise with ease, maintain not only mobility but autonomy. Autonomy is one of the purest forms of freedom. Not relying on a cane or the help of others for basic life movements is, in itself, an antidote to aging. What appears to be a simple exercise is, in reality, an alchemical movement that unites the physical, energetic, and spiritual, beyond toning or strengthening. It reminds us that the secret to longevity is not in adding more, but in returning to the essential dot we have already. Understood that the deep squat is not merely a physical exercise, but a gesture full of symbolism, regenerative power, and spiritual connection. Yet there are subtler nuances that deserve attention, because what many consider a simple movement can become a practice of self-discovery when done with full awareness. One of the most surprising aspects is that difficulty performing. A deep squat is not natural, but cultural. The human body is designed to do it. Young children perform it effortlessly, without training or strain. But in modern societies, an excess of chairs and lack of ground contact has atrophied this ability. What should be a basic movement pattern is now perceived as an almost impossible challenge for millions of adults. And therein lies a hard truth. We have not aged simply because years pass, but because we have forgotten how to move as we were meant to. Another important nuance is the contradiction between comfort and longevity. We surround ourselves with sofas, high chairs, soft beds, everything designed to make life easier. But therein lies the trap. By reducing bodily effort, we weaken it. The deep squat reminds us that true comfort lies not in avoiding effort, but in maintaining the ability to exert it. It is a call to return to the ground, to reconnect with the earth, to that space where life is sustained through simplicity. There is also a less explored energetic aspect, the deep squat as a grounding portal. In a fast-paced world, our energy is scattered upward into the mind and worries. By lowering into a squat, you literally direct your energy toward the earth, strengthening the root chakra, the center that gives us stability, security, and connection to the material. It is like a grounding cable for your spirit, releasing excess energy and recharging the essential. There is even a deep emotional layer. Many people feel discomfort holding the posture, not just due to physical stiffness, but because the body stores memories in the hips, knees, and ankles. The discomfort is an invitation to release. Each second in a deep squat is an act of courage. You sit with your discomfort, observe it, breathe, and gradually transform it into strength. Finally, it is essential to understand that the deep squat is not about aesthetic perfection. It is not a gym movement to sculpt glutes or legs. It is a daily ritual, It is about drinking from the spring of mobility, remembering that you are still capable of lowering and rising on your own. That simple ability can make the difference between aging with limitations or aging with dignity, freedom, and vitality. In summary, the deep squat is neither a whim nor a trend. It is ancestral medicine. We have ignored a practice that restores what modern life has stolen: connection with the ground, with the body, and with life itself. The secret to anti-aging is not found in expensive creams or miracle capsules. As always, it lies in simplicity. The body has its own alchemy, but it requires that we remember the movements that keep it alive. The deep squat should not be a challenge, but a daily skill. And regaining this posture can become a journey of physical and spiritual transformation. Here are some tips to make this movement an easy routine to incorporate into your life. First, start where you are. It does not matter if today you can only lower yourself a few centimeters. The process is not about forcing, but about gradually remembering what your body has always known how to do. Start with support. Sit on a low chair and rise without using your hands. Use assistance if needed, but do it with intention. Each attempt reminds your muscles and joints of their original purpose. Second, integrate the deep squat into your daily life. Don't reserve it just for workouts. Use it when picking something up from the floor, or when resting for a few seconds, instead of always reaching for a chair. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, but over time, your body will recognize this movement as its natural home of motion. Third, breathe consciously in the posture. Feel your hips expanding, your ankles and diaphragm relaxing. Each inhalation is a sip of vital energy. Each exhalation releases tension into the earth. Fourth, use the squat as meditation. Place your hands in front of your heart. Close your eyes and observe what arises: discomfort, stiffness, thoughts. Staying balanced close to the ground trains patience, humility, and the mind. Fifth, make the floor your ally. Sit on the floor to read, watch TV, or spend time with family. Alternating between floor and squat strengthens hips and knees effortlessly. Every minute away from the ground is a minute you forget your natural design. Sixth, celebrate every progress. Don't seek perfection. Value every extra second in the posture, every extra centimeter you lower, every movement that becomes more fluid. Progress is not measured by muscles, but by freedom regained. The deep squat is the body's original language, a gesture that awakens the ancestral memory of vitality. Practice it daily, and you'll see that anti-aging is not a myth, but a natural consequence of living in harmony with your design. We've traveled from humanity's oldest roots to the present, uncovering a forgotten secret: the deep squat, ignored by 99% of people, can determine the difference between aging with stiffness or living with vitality. Its greatness lies in simplicity. It requires no gym, expansive equipment, or complex programs. Bending down to the ground and rising again holds the alchemy of youth. It strengthens muscles, frees joints, stimulates organ, and awakens the vital energy flowing through the body like a luminous river. Beyond the physical benefits, it offers a spiritual lesson. Life is a cycle of descending and rising again. Every descent embraces humility. Every rise celebrates the strength to stand anew. Maintaining this ability is the true secret to facing aging. Aging is not just the passage of time, but forgetting our connection to what is essential. Recovering the deep squat is a return to the ancestral memory of what it means to be alive. The choice is in your hands. You can ignore this secret and seek external solutions that never arrive, or dare to rediscover what your body has always known how to do. Every attempt, every second closer to the ground, is a step toward freedom, autonomy, and vitality. Imagine your life in 20 or 30 years. Do you want to arrive with stiffness, dependence, and pain, or with fluidity, the ability to move freely and dignity? The answer lies in this simple gesture you've now rediscovered. True anti-aging is not about denying the passage of time, but about living each year with full movement and energy. The deep squat is the key that restores this possibility. If this knowledge resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, inspire, and help others rediscover their strength and vitality. I invite you to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with your loved one. Because every person who remembers this ancestral secret will have the opportunity to restore their vitality and transform their future. Time will pass for everyone, but how we live, it depends on our choices. Today, you've discovered a powerful choice, returning to the movement that preserves life